Genoa City had always thrived on secrets. Behind every polished smile, every power move, every carefully crafted alliance, there was always something waiting to be uncovered. But even in a city where deception was practically currency, some truths were too explosive to remain buried forever. And this one had the power to rewrite everything. It began quietly, as most devastating revelations do. Kane Ashby stood alone in Chancellor Park, his phone still glowing in his hand. The message he had just read didn't make sense, not at first. It was a fragment of information, vague yet heavy with implication. You deserve to know the truth about Billy. Talk to Jill. No name, no explanation, just enough to stir something dangerous. Kane had learned long ago to trust his instincts. And right now, those instincts were telling him one thing. Something wasn't right. Jill Abbott had built her life on control. Control over her business. Control over her image. Control over her past. But control is a fragile thing, especially when it's built on secrets. That evening, Jill sat in her penthouse, staring at a glass of wine she hadn't touched. The city lights flickered beyond her window, but her focus was elsewhere. Memories. Old ones. Ones she had spent years locking away. A knock at the door broke her thoughts. She didn't need to ask who it was. "Come in," she said, her voice steady, but only just. Kane stepped inside, and immediately the tension shifted. "I got a message," Kane said, not bothering with pleasantries. Jill's eyes narrowed slightly. People send messages all the time. This one mentioned Billy. That was enough. A flicker, just a flicker, of something crossed Jill's face, and Kane saw it. "Who sent it?" she asked. "Does it matter?" Silence, heavy, uncomfortable. Then Kane stepped closer. "What aren't you telling me?" Jill stood up slowly, her composure slipping just enough to reveal the pressure beneath. "There are things in this family," she said carefully, "that are better left in the past." Kane shook his head. "Not anymore." He pulled out his phone, scrolling, then turned the screen toward her. "I did some digging." Jill didn't look. She didn't need to, because she already knew. "What did you find?" she asked quietly. Kane's voice dropped. "A connection." He paused. "Between you and Victor Newman." Jill closed her eyes. For a moment she said nothing, and in that silence, Kane understood everything. "Oh my God," he whispered. Jill turned away, her shoulders tense. "It was a long time ago," she said. "How long?" "Before Billy was born." The words hit like a shockwave. Kane stared at her, disbelief written across his face. "You're saying—" "I'm saying nothing," Jill snapped, turning back sharply. "And neither should you." But it was too late. The question had already been asked, and once a question like that exists, it cannot be undone. Billy Abbott had never been a stranger to chaos. His life had been shaped by it, defined by it. But nothing could prepare him for this. He sat at society, nursing a drink he barely tasted, when Kane walked in. Their eyes met, and immediately Billy knew something was wrong. "Why do you look like you've seen a ghost?" Billy asked, half joking. Kane didn't smile. "Because I might have." Billy's expression shifted. "Okay, now you've got my attention." Kane hesitated, just for a moment. Then he said the words that would change everything. "I think you need to talk to your mother." Jill wasn't expecting Billy. Not yet. Not like this. The door burst open, and there he was. Angry, confused, searching. "What's going on?" Billy demanded. Jill's heart pounded, but she forced herself to stay calm. "Sit down." "No," Billy snapped. "You don't get to do that. Not this time." He stepped closer. "I want the truth." Jill's eyes flicked briefly to Kane, who stood silently behind him, and then slowly she exhaled. "You won't like it." Billy let out a bitter laugh. "Try me." "It was years ago," Jill began. "A different time, a different life." Billy crossed his arms. "Get to the point." Jill hesitated. Then, "I had a relationship with Victor Newman." The room went still. Billy blinked. Once, twice. Then he shook his head. "No." Jill didn't respond, because she couldn't deny it. Billy's voice rose. "No, this is a joke, right? Some kind of twisted story?" "It's not a joke." "Then tell me why Kane thinks—" He stopped, the realization hitting him mid-sentence. Slow, devastating. "You're not saying that Victor is my father." Jill's silence was answer enough. Billy staggered back as if the ground had shifted beneath him. "That's impossible," he said. "It can't be." Jill stepped forward. "Billy, don't," he snapped. "Don't say my name like everything's normal." His mind raced. His entire identity, his past, his family, his name, suddenly felt unstable. "I'm an Abbott," he said. "You are," Jill insisted. "Am I?" he shot back. Because now, nothing felt certain. Victor Newman had built an empire on power, on control, on knowing more than everyone else in the room. But even he wasn't prepared for this. He stood in his office at Newman Enterprises, staring out over the city, when the door opened without announcement. Billy. Victor turned, and immediately he knew. Well, Victor said calmly, this should be interesting. Billy didn't hesitate. Are you my father? The question hung in the air, sharp, unavoidable. Victor studied him, and for the first time in a long time, he didn't answer right away. There are many things in life, Victor said slowly, that are not as simple as they seem. Billy laughed bitterly. That's not an answer. No, Victor agreed, it's not. He stepped closer. But it might be the only one you're getting. Billy's jaw tightened. Did you know? Victor didn't respond immediately, and that hesitation, that single moment, was all Billy needed. In Genoa City, truth is never just truth. It's leverage, it's power, it's destruction. And this truth, it had the potential to tear apart two of the most powerful families in the city, the Abbotts, the Newmans. If Billy was Victor's son, everything changed. Business, loyalty, identity, even legacy. Kane stood on the sidelines of it all, watching the chaos unfold. He hadn't intended to start this, but now that it had begun, there was no stopping it. Because secrets like this don't fade. They explode, and when they do, they take everything with them. Is Victor Newman Billy Abbott's real father? The answer may exist, buried in the past, hidden in choices made decades ago. But whether it's proven or not, the damage has already begun. Because sometimes the question is more powerful than the answer. In Genoa City, nothing stays hidden forever. Not secrets, not lies, not the truth. And as this story continues to unfold, one thing is certain: no one will walk away unchanged. The question lingered long after Billy left Victor's office. It didn't fade, it didn't soften, it grew. By morning, Genoa City felt different. Not because anything had been confirmed, but because something had been set in motion. Whispers moved faster than facts. A secretary at Newman Enterprises overheard raised voices. A bartender at Society noticed Billy leaving, shaken and silent. A driver mentioned Jill had canceled her entire schedule. Individually, these meant nothing. Together, they formed a storm, and in Genoa City, storms never stayed contained. Billy didn't go home, he didn't go to work. He went where he always went when the world stopped making sense. The edge. Not literally, but emotionally. A dimly lit bar, a glass that never stayed full for long, and a mind that refused to slow down. Victor Newman, he muttered to himself. The name tasted wrong, heavy, impossible, but also terrifyingly possible. Because now, every memory was shifting. Every moment of tension with Victor, every rivalry, every clash. Was it coincidence? Or something deeper? Something biological? Billy slammed his glass down. No, he said out loud. But the doubt remained. Back at her penthouse, Jill stood alone again. But this time, the silence wasn't reflective. It was suffocating. She had always believed she could control the narrative, that the past, no matter how complicated, could be contained if left untouched. But Kane had touched it. Billy had ripped it open, and now it was everywhere. You should have told him, a voice echoed in her mind. She shook her head. No, I was protecting him. But was she, or had she been protecting herself? Victor Newman did not panic. He calculated. He adjusted. And most importantly, he prepared. Standing behind his desk, he pressed a button. Have Michael Baldwin come in, he said. Because if there was even a possibility, even the slightest chance, that this story could become public, then it wasn't just personal, it was war. At Jabot, the tension was immediate. Jack Abbott had heard enough whispers to know something was wrong, but he hadn't expected Billy to walk in looking like a man whose entire world had collapsed. Billy, Jack said, standing. What happened? Billy didn't answer right away. He just stared at him. And for a moment, Jack felt something he hadn't felt in years. Fear. What if I'm not an Abbott? Billy finally said. The words hit harder than any accusation ever could. Jack's expression hardened instantly. Don't say that. But what if it's true? It's not, Jack said firmly. Billy laughed, short, broken. You don't even know what I'm talking about. Jack stepped closer. Then tell me. Billy hesitated, then said it. Jill and Victor. Silence. Heavy. Unbelievable. Jack's jaw tightened. No, that's what I said. The Abbott name meant everything. Legacy, identity, history, and now it was being questioned. Jack turned away, processing. This is speculation, he said. Nothing more. But what if it's not? Billy pushed. Jack faced him again, his voice sharper now. You are my brother. Half-brother? Billy shot back. Jack didn't flinch. You are my brother. And in that moment, it wasn't about blood. It was about choice. But Billy wasn't ready to accept that. Not yet. Kane had opened the door. Now he had to decide how far to walk through it. He sat alone, replaying everything. The message, Jill's reaction, Victor's silence, Billy's collapse. This wasn't just a secret. It was a chain reaction. And once started, it couldn't be stopped, but there was one thing left: proof. Because rumors create chaos, but proof creates consequences. The idea came quietly, but once it did, it refused to leave. DNA. Science didn't care about secrets. It didn't care about reputation. It didn't care about power. It only cared about truth. And truth was exactly what Billy needed. Later that night, Kane found Billy again. "You want answers?" Kane asked. Billy didn't look up. "I want this to not be real." Kane nodded slightly. "Yeah, I get that." He paused. "But if it is, don't you want to know?" Billy's grip tightened around his glass. "How?" Kane held his gaze. "Test. One word, simple, final." Billy exhaled slowly, because deep down, he already knew that was the only way forward. At Newman Enterprises, Michael Baldwin sat across from Victor. "This could be serious," Michael said. Victor remained calm. "It could also be nothing." Michael raised an eyebrow. "Do you believe that?" Victor didn't answer, because belief wasn't the issue. Control was. "If this becomes public," Michael continued, "it changes everything." Victor's eyes darkened slightly. "I am well aware, because if Billy Abbott was his son, then the lines between Abbott and Newman were no longer just rivalries. They were family." Alone once more, Jill picked up her phone. She scrolled through old contacts, old messages, old memories, and stopped on one name: Victor. Her thumb hovered. Then she dialed. The phone rang. Once, twice, then. "Jill." His voice, calm, controlled, familiar. She closed her eyes. "We need to talk." They met in private. No staff, no witnesses, just history. "You should have told him," Victor said. Jill's eyes flashed. "Don't start. He deserves the truth." "And what is the truth, Victor?" She shot back. "Because even you don't know for sure." That stopped him, for a moment, because she was right. There had never been confirmation, only possibility, only timing, only doubt. "If Billy is my son," Victor said slowly, "then this changes things." Jill shook her head. "No, it complicates things. Everything is already complicated. That doesn't mean we make it worse." Victor stepped closer. "This isn't about us anymore." "No," Jill agreed quietly. "It's about him." Back at the bar, Billy sat in silence. The noise around him faded. The weight inside him didn't. DNA, truth, proof. He didn't want it, but he needed it, because living with doubt was worse than any answer. He stood up suddenly. Decision made. In Genoa City, secrets don't just come out. They unravel lives, they reshape identities, they blur the line between past and present. And now, as Billy Abbott stands on the edge of discovering who he truly is, one truth becomes unavoidable. Some answers don't set you free. They redefine you completely.